It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
Okay, this is a funny username, but here's a good question from Blood One Barge 2. Okay. I'm 24 and have $42,000 in savings accounts and $6,000 invested. I'm netting about $2,000 per month after bills. Should I keep investing 30 to 50% or pay off my debt, student loan debt and car debt? So 24 years old, solid savings rate. What do you guys think?
Read me the numbers again. I wasn't
Sure.
It took me a long time to write his name.
He says he has $42,000 in savings.
So I'm guessing that means like emergency fund.
Cash.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, and $6,000 invested.
Great. Okay.
And he's netting about $2,000 per month after he pays his bills.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we sound like a broken record when we bring it up, but the financial order of operations. I mean, because I would totally go through this in the format of, okay, he's got he's got deductibles covered. He's got employer match covered because he's obviously saving enough. He sounds like he does have some debt, so we got to make sure none of it's credit card debt. If it's student loan debt, I'd go look at the interest rate on it and make sure is it low interest or is it high interest?
I think he said student loan and car loan 3 to 4%.
Yes.
Right. I think it's so this is low.
So it's still considered a low interest
yeah.
debt. So then you move on to step 4, which is, he's already got the cash reserves, 3 to 6 months. Step 5, load up the Roth IRA. And then step 6, max out the Roth IRA. But here's the thing. He says he's saving over 40%. Was that the percentage? Wasn't it 40%?
Yeah, 40 to 50.
40 to 50%. I consider hyperaccumulation once you get over 25%. So that's going to get you past 6. To 7 is really looking at the 3 bucket strategy, and he's already got the 25%, and he's starting to think about the different accounts. So I think that he is well on his way to 9, which is, yes, if you're saving 25%, you've, kind of begin with the end in mind, you're thinking about the future. I think you probably do get to the point where you can start paying down some of those debts, the student loan debt and some of the other things.
Again, I think you have to ask. Yes, I agree full fold. You have to get to the why. Once you get past hyperaccumulation, steps 8 and 9, really steps 7, 8, and 9, you begin living in this world of personal preference. Hyperaccumulation may be 25%, or you may decide, I want to be a 40% hyperaccumulator, and that's okay. It's just where you get the permission to move on to, do I want to prepay future expenses like saving for college or like saving for the rental property, like saving for whatever that thing is, or do I want to start paying off low interest debt? You kind of get to decide in that mechanism. So at 24, again, I sound like a broken record. I would go look at what every dollar you put to work can turn into by the time you get to 65, and I'd make a cost benefit analysis. Is satisfying that 3 to 4% student loan debt versus having those dollars work for me over the next 30, 40 years? How does that trade off? Or should maybe I hyperaccumulate at 40% through my 20s, and then when I get to my 30s, I'll start hyperaccumulating at 30%, and I'll shift those dollars to start paying off some of that debt. I don't think there's anything wrong with thinking through it in a stepped procedure. Steps 7, 8, or 9 are really when you get to put the control in your ballpark so that you can choose where you're sending your dollars.
I do want to make sure, because we spoke in very general terms there, like car debt. I still think it ought to be gone in 3 years.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You got to still do the 23.
People get so mad at me when I talk about that because they're like, what if I got, now look, nobody's getting 0% right now, but people who get those 1 and 2% teaser rates on their car loans because it was subsidized with the purchase of the vehicle, they get mad at me. But the thing I'm always thinking about, we will get to some normalcy at some point where cars depreciate again. And the cars depreciating is always your fear. You don't want to be underwater in that. So pay attention. And then also, that's why I said begin with the end in mind, is because if you are part of this FIRE movement, somebody who's saving 40, 50%, you might have this thought, I want to get out at 53 years old. If you're trying to leave in your early 50s, you might have to have a higher than 25% savings rate. But if you're leaving 60 and beyond, then 25%, you might say, hey, the peace of mind would be very valuable for me to pay off this debt. I know I'm not leaving the workforce before 60. That's the balance. That's why Bo says it really is step 7, 8, and 9 becomes much more individualized on your preference, what your goals are. That's why I love what we do for a living. That is the time when typically you you bring on a co-pilot to help you navigate that well.
Yep.